There are many people who will give when you ask. There are fewer people who will come forward before you ask. Steve was the guy who came forward before.
My father once told me, you can never go wrong doing the right thing. I still hear him saying that to me.
Even to this day, when we're talking about my dad, they're talking about him with such love. It makes me feel good to talk about it because it makes me remember the person that he was and the impact that he could have on so many people.
My daughter, Skylar, is named for Steve, and I know that he is living on within her and through her, and she also just wants to make everyone smile, and she brightens our lives just like my dad did.
He enjoyed being with people. He enjoyed just being on Rittenhouse Square. It was a part of who he was, showing his personality, and he had so much to give. And that's what he just loved to do.
Even as a kid, we would walk into Ponzio's, and a lot of people would know him, but it wasn't that. He knew them, and he knew them by name.
He knew how lucky his kids were and his grandchildren, and he always lived that life of wanting to pay it forward, to take care of other people that didn't necessarily have the opportunities or were afforded the opportunities that he had.
I've learned a ton from my dad over the years, and a ton has stuck with me. I think the biggest thing for me is work ethic. Work ethic and family. Just huge, huge parts and foundation of who I am.
The core values he instilled in us was family comes first, no matter what. Family has each other's backs, no matter what.
As we became adults and my brothers and I came into the business, my dad definitely, he changed as a person. He got involved in the synagogue, became president of the synagogue.
We would be in a staff meeting. He would come in and he would come in and join us. And we were just so excited to see him. He always brought a sense of joy, a sense of celebration when he was here.
TVS has always been so important in our lives, and regardless of what was going on, TVS always felt like home. Still to this day, when I walk in that building, I can feel my dad and I can feel his presence because of what it meant to him and what it means to all of us.
He was very close and looked at Rabbi Lewis like a mentor, looked at Rabbi Lindemann as a close friend and confidant.
Boy, how fortunate we are to have had Steve Ravitz as a past president. How I will remember Steve Ravitz is for his kindness and his generosity.
Before each trip to Israel that I took with his children or grandchildren, he came to my office. He said, "Where are you visiting?" I'd say the Jaffa Institute or Lekut Israel or one of these great tzedakot in Israel that do great things for people there. And he'd say, "Take $1,000 from the Ravitz Fund, present it there as tzedakah, but here's the catch. I want my grandchild to present it because I want them to learn what it means to give tzedakah." That, in a lot of ways, I think really sums up who Steve was. Not only was he generous, right, but he was committed to passing on that generosity and that legacy to his children and his grandchildren.
There's nobody in the congregation who traveled with me more than Steve has traveled with me, to whether it was to Israel or to Eastern Europe, but Israel most of all. I think we probably took 6 trips together at least, and it may be more than that. There is no time that we went to Israel that Steve did not go with tzedakah money in his pocket, which he would give in various places for that special individual that needs extra help or assistance.
When my grandfather passed, my dad was moved spiritually in many ways, and the synagogue was here for him, and he's had a very special relationship with Rabbi Lindemann. They were very close, one of my dad's deepest friends, and that came out of just hours and hours of work as well as just friendship that was created through that level of work. My dad was always passionate about leadership positions, and he liked being in charge, but he also He was in charge because he wanted to help. He thought he could make things better. And I would say most of the time when he left an organization, it was better than when he got there.
I think what always really struck me about Steve was his neshama, was his soul. He just loved life. He had a joy for life. He had a joy for being in community and being with other people. I remember that he would oftentimes just find his way back into where the clergy offices are. I don't know if anyone ever let him back there, but he ended up back there. And he would always spend time with Rabbi Lindemann, with Rabbi Peltz and Cantor Cohen.
He was motivated by seeing other people happy. That was his motivation to always be generous and to give and to make people laugh.
The other thing, too, that I really admire about Steve is determination to put together the kosher experience. We can get pretty much any kind of kosher food that we could need here in Cherry Hill. Is something that I think is a really important service that we have for our community, for our shul, for the broader community as well. And that was really due to his commitment and his vision.
I think when he opened the first kosher experience, this light kind of went off in his head and his connection got really deep in a good way. And when we were able to open on the other side of town too, I mean, he was so proud and so happy. The Ravitz Family Foundation meant the world to my dad. It started with my grandparents and my dad and my uncle. They were able to bring it to a level that I don't know that anybody expected. If my dad were here today and see what we're doing and how we're doing it, I think that he would just be super proud.
I'm just so thankful to have a dad who was thoughtful, caring, and really, really, really loved the community and loved the people around.
There's no question he's fulfilled the legacy that he set out to do. His heart was full to the very end. He left a big shadow for all of his children and grandchildren that we sit behind, but I think we're all proud of that.
These last couple years have been hard since Steve passed away, certainly for the family, for us as well. But what's been a silver lining in all of it is seeing how Sean and Debbie and Brett and Lauren and Jason and the whole family have really stepped up to pick up Steve's legacy with ShopRights, with the Ravitz Foundation, at TBS, at the JCC, and the community. I think the way in which Steve taught his children about what it means to be a member of the Jewish people and what it means to support the community has definitely gone through. It's really beautiful to see the way in which they have continued to carry on his legacy.